For the last 6 months, I've been making this game, and now the release date is right round the corner. Oh no. This game is supposed to be my magnum opus, my best game so far. So it can't look like this. We need to improve the graphics. The thing is, I don't know how to, so I scoured Pinterest for some inspo. I tried doing something called baking the lights first, which is supposed to improve how they look, but if this is an improvement, then we're in for a bad time. Because apparently I'm bad at baking lights, I instead decided to improve the maps by adding better models. The thing is, I'm also bad at making models, so I picked up this ultimate low poly nature pack and went to town. This was a great decision, because map 1 went from this to this in only 30 minutes of messing around. Alright, so I did some mining off camera and improved all the maps, and they look much more like a proper game and less like an 8-year-old's first game prototype. And of course, as I finish doing this, the pack goes on sale for 50% off. There's also post-processing, which is basically a free graphics update. I don't know what any of these sliders mean, but I moved some of them around and it made the game look better, so I'm not complaining. Okay, so that's one thing done. Funnily enough, even though we are just polishing the game, I actually have the biggest to-do list out of any video on this game so far, which is nice. Now, it's good having nice looking maps, but if the game doesn't feel good to play, then well, it's a bit shit, isn't it? In case you're new here, in the game, a bunch of these small guys try to make it to the end of the map, while one massive player tries to stop them with towers and abilities. Currently, when you get spanked as a small guy, it doesn't quite have an oomph to it. I want you to feel that smack in your soul. The first thing I did was try and make him flop if you get hit hard enough, but it just kind of made him stiff instead. So instead, I added some screen shake, little guy blood particles, and a tiny little jump to emphasize it, which definitely did the trick. This made the cannon and bouncy pillar especially cool to get smacked by. I spent some time on the other towers too, like making the machine gun particles look nicer, making it clear where the ice tower starts, making it more obvious that the fan is blowing you and that the black hole is sucking you. Small bits like that. Now all the towers feel much better to interact with, so you can really feel the small guy's pain as he gets obliterated by 10 machine guns at once. So somewhere along the way, the shields stopped working and now do nothing. And when they do work, they only protect against cannons and machine guns. I've added way more towers since then, so they basically don't do anything now. Okay, so I found out that when I added all of those shields a couple of videos ago, I actually never gave collision boxes to them. How did I not notice that for like 3 months? I then made the shields work against fans and added this effect, which gets bigger the more wind knockback you're resisting. The opposite sweeper was literally impossible to pass. So now when you collide into a sweeper with a shield, it changes its direction. Then I made them work against some of the other towers like wrecking balls. But hang on. I've been testing this code, which is meant to stop the wrecking ball in its tracks when it hits a shield. Pretty logical, right? On a collision, if it's a shield, stop moving. So why are you still moving?
20 minutes later.
It's because I didn't attach the script to the ball. It's been a long day. Now, when the wrecking ball collides into a shield, it smashes into it and stops it in its tracks. I made the shields have much more health because they'll get depleted quite quickly now that literally everything around you uses up shield health. All of this should make shields a much more useful upgrade path. So now that the game feels better to play, we should fix some bugs, because if we keep adding stuff in without fixing bugs, it really quickly turns into a shit show. So if you have a machine gun and a black hole next to each other, the black hole suddenly becomes super duper strong. I tracked this down, and what happens is the machine gun has an error when it shoots, which I just wrapped in something called a try-catch block, which is basically the code equivalent of putting your dirty socks under your bed and forgetting about them, because the error still happens. This error stopped the black hole from checking if it already pulled you, which then made it pull you hundreds and hundreds of times. So that's now fixed. Oh, and I also fixed the main menu guy spazzing out and the walking animation, which looked alright when walking slow, but progressively got worse and worse the faster you got. So we should now be bug-free. So to bring more life to the game, we need to do sounds. And besides like 5 different sounds, I've basically put all of this off until now. Thanks, me. To make a sound, I basically went to this free audio website, found clips I liked, put them together, changed the pitch and stuff around, and boom. Sound effect. I spent a few hours making all the sound effects and tried to give the little guys voices, but I just couldn't make the sounds required with my mouth. No problem though. Tutti volunteered and made me some pretty nice sounds. Wiring everything up took at least 4 times as long as actually making the sounds, but to give you a few examples, this is what a hard impact feels like. This is what it feels like to have your shield broken by a wrecking ball, and this is how the huge guy enters the map. When the player reaches the end of a level, the big guy's health goes down, and nothing really happens. So it would be really cool if we shot the small guys out of a giant fucking cannon. So I made a cannon, made a small guy shoot out of it, then made a small guy shoot out of it better, slapped a camera onto him, and just like that, it's done. Totally didn't take like 20 more steps. Oh, and I also tried to make the big guy walk out in a cool cutscene when the game starts, but for a while this was happening instead. I hate working with cameras. I eventually ended up with this, which I think looks pretty cool. After I stopped procrastinating with some small tasks, I finally decided to make some character customization. But first I procrastinated again by making a cool camera transition, and then again by making a character rotation script. I also tried making some capes, but they didn't really look that good, so they're still a work in progress. Cloth physics are not something you want to get into. Trust me. So for now, you can only change the body and eye color, but the system is in place, so we can add a lot more stuff in the future. It was at this point we got new art finish for the game, so I updated the Steam page, where you can wishlist the game right now. Link in description, and all the loading screens and menus. The art was made by Johnny Chase, so go check his channel out too. During all this time, there was something looming over me, and that was how the matchmaking and matches worked. The game just kinda slaps people into a match, starts it after 30 seconds, and then nobody can join anymore. This system makes it difficult to find games close to you for a good connection, and every time the game finishes, everyone gets kicked out to the main menu and has to find a new one. All of that is pretty lame. So I once again did a little bit of mining off camera and completely remade the main menu and how the games work, which fixed all of those problems. I can now sleep at night. It now works a lot more like Dani's crab game, which is quite ironic given what I said last video. If I do this, I'm better than Dani at make game. I had to get rid of a week's worth of code which wasn't needed anymore, but I think it was worth it. Look how cool these new buttons are. I may have gotten carried away and put this everywhere around the game, but it looks pretty good, so I'm not complaining. Also, the pre-game lobby is kind of ugly, and I completely forgot about it when making the maps earlier. So I made croissant and added that in, which looks much nicer than the 2 circles we had before. I also changed the countdown for a nice ready up system. Anyway, let's talk about release. The official release date is the 20th of October. It's a little longer than expected, but this will give me enough time to flesh out the gameplay even more, avoid a cyberpunk situation, and give enough time for the music and the rest of the game art and trailer to be completed, which there's some very exciting stuff planned for. So stay tuned. See you next video.